Hello, everyone. Welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about what is nonviolent communication, what are the main components of it, and how does it differ from that original default authoritarian language that I was talking about. So I'm going to share my screen with you. And these are just some of the highlights that are some of my favorite parts of nonviolent communication. We're going to go more into depth later. I like this quote from Marshall Rosenberg that says, "What I want in my life is compassion, a flow between myself and others based on mutual giving from the heart." And as you'll see later, we always give from overflow. When our needs are being met, we will naturally give to other people. When we do not feel like giving to someone else, it's not because we're a bad person. It just means that our needs are not met. But if and when our needs are met, we will give to others. So the main 4 components of nonviolent communication are observations, feelings, needs, which I have in bold because that is, if you remember only one thing about it, remember needs. Get curious about needs. And the 4th component is requests. We will go into much further detail on each of these 4 components. But some important points are that nonviolent communication is a needs-based form of communication. Nonviolent communication balances value for self and value for other. It is not either or, it is both and. It seeks to creatively meet both persons' needs. Now, you are the most highly equipped to care for the needs of the person in your own body, and same is true for the other person. But we can value each other's needs, even if we can't be the one to meet them. The next one says NVC, nonviolent communication, respects autonomy and never forces or seeks to control. If you're familiar with internal family systems and you have experienced what it's like to be in self, capital S self, you'll know that the self never forces its way. It never steamrolls over a part. It always respects the autonomy of parts. And so this is what it's like to be self-led on the inside and on the outside with other people. If I cannot bring myself to offer empathy or compassion to another person, it's because I must offer it to myself first. This is so important. If you understand this, it can go a really long way. So if you just are self-aware in a moment, you realize I'm trying to force myself to be kind to my children, to my spouse, to this person in front of me. And it's so hard. There are parts of me forcing me to do it. Know that it's not because you're a bad person. It's because there are parts of you that need your attention first. So you've got to turn that self-energy inward. And once your parts are all heard, then you can naturally bring the self-energy outward. Another really important understanding in nonviolent communication is if I say no to your request, it is because I have a competing need. It's not a rejection. It's not a statement about you. It just means I have a competing need. And likewise, if you say no to my request, I understand that you have a competing need. So in nonviolent communication, no is always a gift, and it's never the end of the conversation, because it just means, oh, let me get curious about what your competing need is. And maybe we can creatively find a solution that meets both, or maybe I need to release the strategy of you being the one to meet my need, but I can still care about your need and my need, and I cannot take your no personally as rejection. So, and then finally, a really important phrase that you'll hear me use a lot that I love that Marshall Rosenberg uses is that if someone behaves in a violent way, which just means that they're being judgmental, manipulative, or aggressive in some way, it is a, quote, tragic expression of an unmet need, unquote. So when someone is lashing out or maybe when a part inside of us is lashing out, or we find ourselves blended with that part lashing out, we can get curious. That means there's an unmet need. Now, I know that you're tragically expressing it, because when we behave in that violent way, we're less likely to actually get our need met. Just like our protective parts inside, the problem with protectors is they cannot protect. They often work so hard and produce the very thing they're afraid of. So it's the same thing. It's a tragic expression, not because they're evil, but because they're not actually accomplishing what they actually want. They're not able to get their need met. So we can get curious, like I said, with ourselves, with other people. I wonder what the need is underneath. And we will practice that as we go forward. So just kind of an overview of the contrast between these two languages. So the authoritarian communication uses judgments, thoughts, strategies, and demands. Whereas nonviolent communication uses observations, feelings, needs, and requests. And so for the next chunk of this course, we're going to really practice translation. We're going to translate our judgments into observations. We're going to talk about what that looks like. We're going to translate our thoughts into our feelings. We're going to translate our strategies into needs, universal human needs. And then we're going to translate our demands into requests. So I look forward to doing that practice with you, and I'll see you in the next video.